Today, we're fortunate to have with us insurance expert Jerry Kennedy, CEO of Observatory Strategic Management. And we're going to discuss the often overlooked risk of digital premises liability. Applying traditional premises liability concepts to the virtual world poses unique challenges impacting legal interpretations, cybersecurity, privacy, and ultimately insurance coverage. Jerry, thanks for being here today.
Oh, glad to be here, Bob.
Can you give our audience
dodged a few storms here?
Oh, good thing. Good thing. Stay warm, my friend.
I'm trying.
Can you give our audience a little background on digital premises liability and what it is and why we should be concerned and why should we even care?
Well, you care. First of all, digital premises liability is very linear to what is known as premises liability. Very simply, right here in New England, you clean your driveway so the postman doesn't fall down. It's called duty of care. So you maintain things to the best of your ability to not harm others. So my physical premise here in my house, we shovel the driveway. It's for the common good. But if someone falls on the driveway on my premises, and I didn't maintain it properly, they would have legal recourse due to bodily injury, property damage. Should they drop and break something that they're maybe delivering to you? Those things. That's part of common law, and it's very standard. It's not just the United States; it's just all the common law countries, which is most of the Western world. So we've now gone ahead and created a digital version of the same. We made digital premises. Those websites that are getting hacked where people work upon, they transit data that can cause these same causal effects: physical damage, bodily injury, property damage. But then it starts to bring in a little more contractual liabilities. When you start affecting someone that you're working with on a third-party basis, you affect not only you and somebody immediately you're working with, but then their whole supply chain of who they work with. The concurrency of these things are not only IT-based, but one of my greatest concerns is OT-based, operational technologies. So that infiltration and exfiltration of data, whether it be PII, could be medical information, could be financial information, could be intellectual property, all of which is moving along your digital premises. With digital premises come liabilities and assets. And that is part of standard common law. So welcome to the new world.
Yeah. So do current standard liability insurance policies typically cover these digital premise liability risks?
They could. So the funny thing about insurance policies, you have to have cover perils, and they are supposed to be defined. In a property policy, it'd be fire, wind, weight of ice and snow, theft. Okay, very defined perils, and they go out of their way. They have entire pages dedicated to this. In the liability world, you have property damage, bodily injury, and contractual issues. Okay, those are pretty standard. Slip and fall, etc. Stuff we're aware of. So, with regard to digital premises liability, because it deemed could be off premises, well, the definition of premises has not been redefined, and it needed to be over 24 years ago when the digital premises problem, better known as Y2K, started waking us up to all this thing. So now it's manifested into a much more difficult situation because we haven't got our legal arms around it, because the technical stack of which you know so well, Bob, has now bled into the legal stack. And the legal stack has not caught up. The insurance industry works inside the legal world. That's how our policies are adjudicated in courts, affirmed, disavowed. But we have something called silent non-affirmative situation brewing. An exclusion would require an absolute exclusion. It has to be stated. Like pollution's a perfect example. We don't cover the Love Canal anymore. But now we're sitting here with a digital love canal all over again, aren't we? So
So
a lot of the rules, the laws, the case law is going to be reapplied into the digital realm.
so we're going to need in situations like this, if you have insurance policy like this, so it would have to be almost stated as an exclusion not to be covered. Then or is that not a total complete?
It's a start, Bob. If what happens, it needs to be mapped, which is what we have done. We've mapped the digital liabilities, the IoT, the OT, the connectivity things. It doesn't seem to have a horizon, Bob. And so right now, we're just trying to see how this is going to play out. We've put programs together centered on bringing, affirmative coverage. But the issue of the insurance industry is the fact that there isn't enough money to pay these losses. It just does. They don't
Hmm.
have enough. So
Right.
they are going to have to do what we call throttle the coverage. You're not going to get as much as you have. Um, and it's not just cyber insurance, which seems to be the layperson's vernacular for this. It transcends, or it's ubiquitous for all lines of business, and these liabilities spill over into the other facets of insurance. So we're really watching it evolve, and we're advising our clients vehemently to start looking at what is their true risk. So we've been pretty busy.
So, is what factors do you consider when assessing the risk on these particular online platforms or all this type of coverage?
Well,
Is there?
the factors are, let's just stay in the realm of duty of care or negligence prevention. That's what a premises situation. If you slipped on the ice, well, put some salt down, right?
Hmm.
So what we're looking at is compliance, which is not security, by the way. Elevating your duty of care to become more secure to what we would call and deem cyber maturity. Bob, everybody on your feed knows this. Nobody's going to fix this in totality, but you really need to move the ball along with what's going on. That's why we have, patches on software. Maybe some of the hardware on that we see here with on some of these routers has to be replaced, pulled out
Hmm.
and gone. So you have to. What we're doing is we're looking at the whole technical stack from the hardware layer all the way up to the human layer, and
Yeah.
how those interact. It's there where we're going to make the changes,
And
and it's
I
already
noticed
happening.
recently China and a group called Volt Typhoon had got into the OT infrastructure, or critical infrastructure of the U.S. and some of our allies too. And two of the key things were Cisco routers that were old and Netgear routers. And basically, these people have them forever and ever, and they don't have any updates anymore. And they say, oh, they still work. But really, they don't. They work for transferring data, but then they also work as far being compromised and being a launch point for any adversary that wants to get into our OT network. So anyway, it's
Bob,
a
Bob,
difficult
you really bring
situation.
up a good point there. I have something kind of funny that actually happened to me when I was on my world travels. Um, it's funny how people want to adhere to those old things because
Hmm.
they work. We all do it.
Hmm.
I was in a very, very major manufacturer deep in the Midwest, and I'm going through the plant, and this plant was miles long. And I'm going through the thing, and I'll never forget it. I worked at Digital in my college internship. Now, if that's not dating myself, I don't know what is. But sure as anything, there was the blue box, Bob. It was a Vax, an old
Mm.
Vax. It
Wow.
had a yellow legal pad on it, Bob. And you know what it said?
What?
Don't turn this off. We don't know what it does. I never forgot that, but it was a metaphor of what I'm about to say. Your digital premises has to be mapped. whether it
Yeah.
be IT or OT. It's not taking inventory of your computers, what they are.
Hmm.
Just today, there was a major printer just put out a whole thing about the firmware with regard to their printers. It's a critical update. Whoever thought
Hmm.
when we were much younger that we'd be seeing a printer, a peripheral, as a
Hmm.
critical update?
Yeah.
Well, given the fact that the hackers have gotten so sophisticated in their own little algorithms, they figured it out pretty good. So you cannot know where you're going if you don't know where you are, is our message.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that is the beginning of adhering to your duty of care, because you're going to have to defend yourself post loss. You know, if you make an honest mistake, no one ever really holds it against you. You may have a financial loss, but if you do things right and in a very human
Uh,
fashion to map it is and you know what it is, you tend to have a better defense position. And we're trying to promote that.
yeah. Interesting. I've seen you're talking about the printers, and I've seen printers that have been compromised before, many years ago, where people broke into them, and actually they could use them as a launching point for the rest of the network. But of course, that also talks about the most recent printer story that we had was with HP, and they decided they didn't want to let any other third-party ink to be used. So if they somebody put in a third-party ink, they bricked their printer totally, just shut it down. So it's
So
like,
I actually wrote about that, Bob. I found that
yeah,
quite interesting. That's old
yeah,
technology, actually. That was the old Nintendo did that many, many years ago.
yeah,
The
oh yeah.
patent belongs to the old gaming world.
But that would that be, I mean, almost part of that digital premises liability? I mean,
If you brick it and they can't
possibly.
get in, now you're putting up walls. So depending upon what you're putting the wall around, and you can define, especially if that wall is somewhere around someone else's stuff, bailment, it might be a prudent way of operating business and quantifiable. But obviously, it seems to be a trade-off between the customer experience and the customer's wallet. So pay now or pay later. You start to bring a whole other realm of liabilities, complicity,
Yeah.
and we're
So,
watching that. I mean, I wrote today that there were 5 insurance companies themselves got hacked in varying degrees of
right.
insurance. They were life insurance companies, they were title companies, but they're becoming a threat vector in and of themselves. So the liabilities, believe it or not, come back to those who are issuing the policies.
Wow.
So
So are we going to start seeing a separate line item for digital premises liability, you think, versus
I
other
do, I do,
liabilities?
because I do because they're going to have to map it. It's going to have to be defined, and that's where the throttling comes in. We've been working on this with Lloyd's for quite a while. Um, they've been very receptive. It's novel. It's very 21st century, and with the advancement of, well, just if you really want to go into the next realm that's coming, the quantum.
Mm,
Everybody throws around AI, but people don't realize how diverse AI is already.
mm,
Um, it's it's definitely going to have to be considered.
yeah.
We're the ones that actually coined the term, and we are the
Mm,
ones that brought it
wow.
to the plaintiffs' attorneys, and we're currently coaching them right now. We've been on calls all day on this.
Wow.
So
Is there, what are the most common type of claims or lawsuits related to this digital premises liability? I mean,
well,
are you seeing it? Are you seeing it already now? And what do you
it's
expect maybe in the
mounting. It's
future?
mounting because what's happened, Bob, is that there's you see the AI rush coming. It's
Yeah.
that's all about the wow, Bob. And here's your answer to that. No one thought about what the wow brings. What's behind it? That breeze. That's the liabilities. No one's accounting for that.
Right.
And when we went to CES in Las Vegas this couple of weeks ago, we didn't go there to see the wow. We looked at the digital the DPL that was there, and it was very vast. And we were literally reporting back to Boston to some of our law firm friends of ours saying, hey, look, this is where it's going to go. And my underwriting file, which I've written thousands and thousands and thousands of policies in my life, it's all changed. It's, the classic insurance that you come to know so well is morphing. And we're also going to start seeing a capital shift in the business saying, hey, who's accounting for this? Because in our estimation, it's musical chairs, and the music's about to stop based upon what we're seeing with the legal minds. They're going, wait a minute, there's some merit to this. And once those unfunded, potentially covered exposures start coming because of something you and I know so well, systemic risk, it's going to come really hard. And there's no backstop for this. You're going to see casualties of this. In the interest of getting people to understand their digital premises liabilities, they now know what they are, which means they can attend to them. So it's that attenuation to them it's going to set them free. But a lot of these liabilities that we don't even know come from the sheer lack of reporting. That's a whole nother set of liabilities because that's the ethical side of it.
Right.
And we're extremely advocating that, even down to a level of quid pro quo of amnesty there. But
yeah, and see more of this coming out of a black box and brought into the light here very soon.
Well, I don't know what you mean by a black box. You want to elaborate on that?
I mean, hidden from the general population. I mean,
the funny part, it's not hidden. It's common law. It's just common law reapplied.
Okay.
So there's no black box here, Bob. It's
okay.
There's a level of enforcement. We have been advocating for professionals, including us brokers, lawyers, accountants, engineers. They're possessors of incredible amounts of information, insurance companies. And there's a level of bailment that's there that's probably held to a higher level. But we're finding that a lot of us professionals are the absolute worst at cyber hygiene.
Yeah.
But that's not going to absolve you from the liabilities just because you didn't know or you were too busy. And you're not going to be able to hide behind your lawyers and with a plausible deniability statement, which we see all too often, because the very lawyers that are going to go to court for you are going to go through an audit. And Bob, you know what those audits are like.
Oh, yeah.
And if those audits are bad, that lawyer's not going to help you. He's going to hinder you, or she, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So the digital premises liability, you got to understand, is a truly digital. It doesn't know any borders either. So there's another legal combatant coming into play because we're jurisdictional or non-jurisdictional. We don't know.
Yeah. Do you see any regulatory changes in this area, or do you think it's going to be more of a insurance companies are going to sort of make the changes that they need to make so they can stay viable in this area?
They're extremely viable because we're the DNA of every business transaction. They're always going to be viable. The regulators are not going to lead on this. We feel that the legal profession can lead because once they gain that lead, they have the ultimate supply chain. They're going to be able to push down to their clients and say, listen, we had this problem. We are telling you to do this. I hope they say this, or find another lawyer. Because no lawyer that's ethically grounded is, once they come to the realization that, hey, wait a minute, we can't even represent these people. We're as bad or worse than the people we're representing, and someone's going to find us out. So, and it's the same with the accountants, the same with us brokers, because if our policies don't work, we're the ones that are selling them this stuff. Do the best of our ability. But if it doesn't work, do you think anybody really cares? No, Bob, they don't.
Yeah.
They want it to work. So the policy is going to shift, and I mean policy at the regulatory level, once the cases start to hit the courts, and those outcomes could be nuclear. And then they're really going to stand up and notice.
Yeah.
We're looking at cases right now, Bob, we've been brought in on. They're class action lawsuits for cyber events. We have now mapped class actions on class actions.
Mm. Whoa. Well, the attorneys should be happy if they're able to collect their money.
They won't be able to collect their money if they're turned around because of the thing that they're going to court about. They're perpetrating themselves. We've already mapped it.
Okay. Gotcha. Wow.
So they're going to spend all this money trying to get the case together, and then all of a sudden, the opposing people or the person is going to say, "Hey, listen, you went to court with my stuff. You lost control of the evidence train, liability.
Hmm.
Good luck bringing that into court."
Yeah. Is there any resources you could recommend for people on digital premises liability at this time, or is it we're sort of too new?
Just look up premises liability and open a Mad Lib book and put in the word digital. It's going to be the same thing.
Okay, all right. As far as what type of exclusions are you think we're gonna see down
Well,
the
first
road?
of all, this is the upside, Bob. We're doing this already. So, in order to gain cover or modicums of cover, you have to prove cyber hygiene. It's
Mm,
happening now.
yeah.
We have plenty of ambiguities in the insurance industry we need to fix, and that's happening. Okay, we're a little late to the game as an industry, um, but it's getting there, Bob. There's some really amazing people getting these things done. Um, we like to use the term: "Is there a digital seatbelt for this?" Not yet, not yet. Um, but what it's going to take on the positive is, you know, good governance, good entropy, good cyber hygiene. Know what DNS means. Know
Hmm.
um, what your what your cloud contract is actually doing. Cloud equals. We have a lot of friends that agree with us.
Hmm.
Your stuff is on someone else's computer, but then you put my stuff with your stuff on someone else's computer. Do you see the stacking of the digital liability? I
Sure.
didn't put it there.
Yeah.
You put it there. You took bailment on bailment, and you caused my problems, especially if that's intellectual property. I see
Is
that. We're seeing that's imminent.
sh- sure. Is there going to be a agreed upon framework is to be able to I guess you test these people that are writing policy are getting new policies or reinstating policies?
Well, reinstatement means that somebody got canceled. Let's move away from that one.
Okay, okay, okay.
So it would be basically restructuring the policy for the 21st century, Bob. That's kind of a grandiose
Hmm.
way of putting it.
Like,
There's a level of embracement of the risk that has to happen that has not happened yet.
hmm.
Running away from risk, it means you're not getting the ensuing premium. But in this case, you think you're running away from the risk, but it's stuck on you like glue because the entire industry is completely integrated in this ubiquity problem because we're so intertwined in the insurance industry. If one goes down, they all go down. We
Hmm.
all experienced that with AIG in the too big to fail scenario. And
Yeah.
then we ended up with the TARP system. That's not going to happen this time.
So if if companies are trying to get to prepare for this, I mean, do they get like say a NIST CSF audit or an ISO audit, or is there something that they can say, oh, if I do this, this, and this, then we're probably good?
You're
Or is it
never going
not?
to be good. You're going to be mature, Bob, and that's all I can get you to. So
Yeah.
what you need to do, it's all about duty of care. I love to reference the classic rock and roll movie Spinal Tap when they had the speaker and they
Hmm.
moved it to 11. You need to
Hmm.
get to 11. You're all
Okay.
talking at the same level. You just got to be
Right.
one better.
Right. I think.
So
I think.
that's what it's going to take.
I think what I'm asking here is, for my audience, is there going to be a framework that's going to be sort of standardized that they can sort of hang their hat on to to get a grade per se of how well they're doing.
Well, so you're talking about indexing now. Yes.
Okay.
Um, Indexing is another imperfect thing that people have been swinging for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we went down that road early and we said, good luck with that. I know what happens. You're going
Yeah.
to be right till you're not. But, if you give someone a schoolyard A, means
Mm-hmm.
that you just gave them the A and say, here, you're going to graduate, but they can't do anything with the parchment. It's kind of a
Right.
pointless exercise.
Right.
I think what's going to have to happen is having people meet a criteria that the insurance underwriting people and the chief underwriting people, the financial people, all agree upon. It takes two to make this go right. That's
Mm-hmm.
the policyholder and the carrier. The regulators are going to sit back and watch.
Yeah.
So we had talked to our friends at the Pentagon a couple of years ago, and the insurance industry is absolutely mission critical in this because we can drive what we would call Main Street. Okay, whether it be Wall Street or Main Street, it's still all the economy. We can throttle our coverage based upon cyber hygiene. We can help define that road you're speaking to, and the
Mm-hmm.
data will come out of it. But there has to be a quid pro quo.
Sure.
We've done a horrendous job in aggregating the losses that we consistently have done for over 100 years. Case in point, workers' compensation. We take a case, we model it, we codify it, and then we can tell you how much we're going to pay on it. We do that every day, but we
Mm-hmm.
never did it for cyber.
Gotcha. I guess people are going to want to figure out what they need to do before. I know, and people got away with this for the longest time. They'd answer the questionnaire. They'd say, "Oh yeah, I got a layer 7 firewall. Sure, I have intrusion detection system. Yeah, I have endpoint security." But then they didn't go farther to ask, okay, is somebody monitoring this, every day? Is somebody doing updates on all these systems on a regular basis? So I guess we got to figure out, I guess, the best way to
Bob,
measure
that's why
that.
reporting is so imperative. Your problem's not shared to someone else. Is not. It has to be a community here. Bob, one thing
Mm-hmm.
we definitely can do is we can build an early warning system about these things. There is commonality between these hacks. The
Mm-hmm.
techniques
Sure.
are not aggregated. We have all these wonderful tools, algorithms, and AI, and small language models, large language models, all the buzzwords you hear,
Mm-hmm.
blockchain, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if I don't have the raw data, which the insurance companies can and should have, underline
Mm-hmm.
past tense, aggregated this and said, wait a minute, let's look at it like we did this and treat it as an injury, which we do all the time in GL and comp. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember what I'm saying? We're going back to the basics. All they
Yeah.
are is the basics reapplied.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good.
So we're well on our way. We've been at this for quite a while. We see where it's going, and it's going to be a rough patch for a little while, and
Yeah.
it's fixable, Bob. It's fixable,
Right.
but you have to embrace it. And the quid pro quo is the reporting. And our friends in Washington and our friends in Europe, they're trying, but a fine's not going to stop somebody from running their business. They consider that a lot of these, I hear the word taxes
Mm-hmm.
coming at people. But where's that money going to mitigate further losses? You never hear where the fine money
Right.
goes. I would rather be
No.
going into education. One of
Yeah.
the things we're also advocating in digital premises liability is teaching the young, right at much younger ages, of what their digital premises. The kids are now, they're castleized in their school, so we don't have active shooters. Well,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't we be doing the exact same thing for the digital guns that are
Mm-hmm.
out there? Start with the
Sure.
kids, and I think you're going to start to get a really good outcome. And we're going to have a smarter batch of kids. And by the way, their cyber hygiene will be like brushing their teeth.
Yeah. That sounds good to
And they'll
me.
be better employees as a result. We've got to start doing it at that political
Yeah.
subdivision level called hometowns.
Yeah. I've been crying out for that for a long time. I think we need to start in grade school.
I agree with you, and other cultures are already doing that, much to our detriment, and we should be modeling that what it is. So, again, trying to get to some level of equilibrium, and also empower these kids to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I get this. Let them come figure it out for us." We owe that generation that, and if you got to go to court to find out the hard way, they're going to find out. And the other one, before you go, Bob, is these boards of directors. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
They operate that digital premises. They don't even know what it is. We've seen some of the biggest corporations. We predicted them getting hacked, and you know what they are. I've talked to you about them personally.
Mm-hmm.
Is there really anybody surprised? But that apathy is not okay. These people are being told, and they're not divulging this information, and they're hurting their constituents, better known as their customers. And unfortunately, they're going to have to pay the piper, and the senior people, the boards of directors, have got to understand that if they don't meet the business judgment, their personal assets are going to be at risk, and it's going to get that serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's already happened.
Sounds good. Thank you for sharing all this with us. Do you offer any specialized insurance products or activities that your company does to help people out in this area?
Yeah, we're guiding a lot of the legal firms right now to basically increase their cyber hygiene to help the whole. That's why we love them so much. Unfortunately, I have to be hard on them before I'm nice to them, because they don't. You talk about immovable objects.
Yeah,
but there's some really, really good law firms out there that are absolutely embracing this stuff. We created a combined thing called Cyber Law Plus, and that is a combined professional liability with cyber insurance. So the ambiguities that are inherently between the two policies are mitigated because you have to follow, just as we described, good compliance, good hygiene, and good governance, good DNS, good understanding of what a cloud is and how it operates. And once we get those clients to a level, and it takes a while, Bob, a level of maturity, it actually affects their P&L because the prices get adjusted. And that's the only way out of this, Bob. And it's lawyers, it's accountants, it's engineers, all of our professional friends who people look up to. We're asking for them to just join. And for the lawyers, I can tell you right now, a cyber hygienic lawyer is going to be the retained lawyer. If you can't prove cyber hygiene, good luck, because it's going to come back and bite you.
Sure. Sounds good.
So we offer, we do a lot of those things. We are coming out with other things right now, certainly in the automobile market. But that's not ready for prime time, Bob. That's another podcast.
Understand. So if people need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Jerry?
Well, you can get on our insurance site, which is watersinsurancenetwork.com. You can certainly get me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active. I have no problem talking to people. I've done amazingly well with LinkedIn, and thank them for giving me the platform. And then you can go on the Waters. The Waters site's probably the best way to get us. I can be DM'd on LinkedIn, and it's under Jerry Kennedy under Observatory Holdings, because that's our risk mitigation company. We mapped the two together to get this thing done, Bob, and we're very, very happy with it's playing out.
Yeah, Jerry, thank you very much for helping educate us today, and we'll have to keep us posted as we move through this period in time.
Yeah,
thank you.
Again, this is going to take a village, Bob, and you've led the way for a lot of us on some of these things. Anybody that's not watching your podcast and some of our friends, and they know who they are because they're going to pick this up on Friday, but they really need to get on these feeds to get to what's going on. And I'm going to tell you, if it's a post-law scenario, there's not a lot of time. Right now is a good time to get us.
Absolutely. Yeah, before you get too busy. Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate it, and you take care.
You too. Thanks, Bob.